from a financial standpoint, I would really enjoy that. I totally would.
Yeah, same.
It's just so polarizing to see like that happen with your mom. Your mom. Like,
not my mom, but Tiffany.
Not Bri's mom, but
that's the thing that scares me the most is I'm like, you see how you're letting your daughter, not like letting your daughter dress on the internet, not trying to be like that, but like protect her.
Yeah.
Protect her. What's going on, internet? Welcome back to the URL vs. IRL podcast. I'm your host, Bri Lynch, and today we're going to deal with something a little bit different. Do me a favor and close your eyes. Do you remember the first time that you discovered the internet and how exciting it was? When I first discovered the internet, I don't think we even had YouTube yet, because I think YouTube came out in like 2005 or so. But I remember when YouTube first came out, all I wanted to do was upload videos on the internet. I wanted to be on camera. I wanted to make my own videos, be able to watch them back. Something about it was so fascinating to me. And I'm sure it was for you too, right? But the internet has changed a lot as we've gotten older. And unfortunately, for the younger generation, they're living with the current internet that we did not have when we were young. Imagine you upload your first video online and you get your first paycheck. Your first paycheck is $50,000. Your next paycheck is $75,000. Soon enough, you're making $500,000 a month. Okay? You're probably feeling on top of the world, right? But then the unimaginable happens. Josh, welcome back to URL vs. IRL.
just downed this entire vitamin water.
Do you want to get a second one before we start?
No, we're good. I'm ready because I know this isn't going to be an insanely long episode. So
you don't think so?
It depends on what we talk about.
I kind of think it's going to be long.
I know exactly what we're going to talk about, but no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing good though.
We're going to be talking about the documentary that you and I just watched.
Yeah, that was a good one. I think we were meaning to expand upon the documentary with a few other people, but ultimately we just decided we just wanted to have this conversation ourselves because when the documentary came out, first off, the documentary we're talking about is, I think it's called Bad Influence.
Bad Influence, yep.
And it's the like kind of the dark side of kidfluencing is what they're calling it. And we sat and watched that. It came out, I think, on April 9th. It's now April 12th or so. Not even that. I think the date's relevant. But it just came out. And the documentary was kind of encapsulating the kidfluence or kid influence life of
culture,
the culture, one would say, of Piper Raquel. This girl, Piper Raquel, who she started maybe making content when she was like 9 years old, anywhere between 8 to 9 years old. Yeah. What's so interesting is that the bad influencing portion of it, I know of content creators dating you. I know of internet creators and YouTubers and everything like that. I don't think, even though I was aware of like Viners and Jake Paul and like all those people back in the day, hopping over from Vine to YouTube when Vine kind of collapsed. I never thought of like influencers being more so kids. And so this documentary was so interesting because it felt like it was really trying to compare the world systematically to like how kid acting is and child acting is. Yeah. Because the documentary felt very synonymous to Quiet on Set. Yeah. So what did you think?
Thank you so much for the summary because I did not want to summarize
I feel like I remember so much of it and it's insane.
You're kind of crazy. Like you're like a little computer. When we watch something, you can like recite things that happened and like mention dates and names and like everything proper. I'm definitely not that person, but I was very moved by this documentary that we just watched, which was called Bad Influence. Yeah. And I was also super moved by Quiet on Set coming from not like a family of movie industry people, but I come from my dad
worked in the movie industry.
Well, yeah, and my dad working in the movie industry, and like everybody likes to call me a little nepo baby, but like I do work hard and I do have talent and skill. So I don't like to consider myself like that because I think that always comes with like a bad like I don't know. It just like there's something like malicious about people saying you're a Nepo baby. What's hilarious though is I think the same thing happens to influencers now. Do you not think so? I think that when people are like, oh yeah, they're like an influencer, they're like rolling their eyes. Like people hate influencers. And it's crazy to me to like even watch this documentary about kid influencers because I, in my personal opinion, had never seen a kid influencer before that. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I can't say.
I think you're as shocked, and the shock factor of the hate that influencers get versus like, because the hate that influencers get full frontal, like, is the exact same hate celebrities get. It's true. It's the exact same.
It's the truth.
Like, I can't tell you how many documentaries I've watched surrounding celebrities and influencers alike. Even the one that just came out with Gabby Petito and her. You don't know who Gabby Petito is?
No. I live under a rock, by the way,
She's like
a
lifestyle YouTube influencer, and there was a whole thing of her partner that she would travel the road with and YouTube with. He murdered her, and there was like a whole thing. I have to watch the. Don't say anything. Don't quote me heavily on all of it because that's something new just came out on this on Netflix. But we'll have to watch that too and like follow up on that. But yeah, I mean it. Yeah, it's true. I mean. It's weird to think of that side of, influencing or that side of like fame, let's say.
Yeah, fame.
Being so jarring or having that much shock factor because, I mean, like with influencing, you just think of these people as normal people. When we were growing up, I thought of people like Smosh and Shane Dawson as, okay, yeah, they're big, they're not celebrities, but they're big, they have hundreds of thousands of people following them. At that time, it's hundreds of thousands of followers genuinely seem more tangible to even someone like me who knew no one at that time when I was in like 5th or 6th grade when YouTube was coming out, or 4th, 5th grade, whatever. And it's just crazy to think that now people treat influencers the exact same way they do celebrities. They
but people hate them.
They will stalk them. They will hate them. They will curse their lives and everything. And what we were learning in the documentary was that the one girl, Piper, was essentially her platform was helping shape and mold the careers of like these other kids.
Other kid influencers,
the other kid influencers that were like building in the platform. And what was hilarious is like it's the same formula that molded with like all the other guys in YouTube. They even made reference in the documentary to people like David Dobrik.
Yep, and his group of friends,
Jake Paul.
And Friends, the TV show.
Which,
what's hilarious to me is, like, I think that as a, like, internet person and, like, a movie industry person and, like, a person in the side of, like, production, in a sense, that also, like, wants, like, in a sense is running their own production, I know formulas that make sense. I understand why, like, certain things blow up and like work and people grasp onto them. And what's crazy to me is the fact that like most people don't recognize that. Like average people that are not like average people, but like the people that are not involved in any kind of like production or internet or movie or anything of the sort don't realize what the people on screen are doing to make things work. Like in this documentary, it's basically like a docu series. It's not really a documentary.
Yeah, they call it docu-series now because I think it kind of goes into the attention span thing.
It was like
because people are more inclined to binge watch TV shows rather than sit for a 2-hour-long documentary.
See, and that's exactly what I'm saying.
They decide to short form factor it.
Correct, and it's that kind of thing that it's crazy to me that like. To me, it's second nature to like think of this stuff where I'm like, yeah, of course, when you have like a group of people, of course, that's going to catch better than like just a single person influencing on their own. When you have a group of characters, in a sense, you're bound to grasp onto one of them or hate all of them.
Until I got to see how certain productions worked, I would have never thought about that. And I'm honestly glad you brought that up about like the things that people don't understand that happen behind production, because like, there's going to be parts of even this podcast and all the podcasts you do alone that like portions and iterations of it get edited out. Not because you're trying to hide or cover up things, but it has to. It has to as far as like
to keep attention span.
It's keeping the attention span, keeping the content clean. But you're not editing anything that is like, oh my God, we're going to get canceled for that. But but this documentary made way to like I guess, address that and like show some of the behind the scenes clips of like when the camera's on, but like they had the camera on even during the bad shit. Like they had the camera on when like some of the people in the production team were like being really fucking horrible to these kids. Now,
never stopped rolling.
Where the documentary got a little crazier was, I don't know how many of you guys out there know Piper Raquel, but
I had never heard of her before.
I had never heard of her. Never fucking heard of her.
Never heard of her.
I think in the world of kidfluencing, the only kid I had heard of was probably JoJo Siwa.
Oh yeah, JoJo Siwa, yeah.
And now somehow she's like in her late teens.
She's all grown up.
She's like an adult
She's
now.
an adult. She's an adult.
What?
Like she's like
oh my god,
21 plus now.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't pay attention enough. I would only think of like kidfluencers as like JoJo Siwa, and like funny enough, she was on Dance Moms.
Yeah, that's how she got her start. Yeah.
And Piper Raquel was also on Dance Moms.
Oh, that's right.
In the docu, I didn't know this. Never heard of her even from around that iteration of the shows. But
wait, for anybody that did not watch this docu-series Bad Influence, I feel like we need to give them a rundown of why this was so bad.
Yeah. So the documentary itself, Bad Influence, the dark side of kidfluencing, so to speak, is what it was called. It really paid notion to the dark side of how kids want to be influencers. Kids have such admiration and adoration for YouTubers, influencers on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. This docu-series was able to really capture the entirety of what the world of kidfluencing can look like and has honestly looked like, almost to the same asynchronous behavior of not adult acting, but asynchronous behavior of child acting.
Yeah.
And they just captured it in social media influencing and YouTube influencing.
Where there's less laws, because this is such a new like phenomenon to our world. Yeah, it's a new domain to our world. So like basically, I think the reason that they use the title Bad Influence is because, number one, I don't think that kids need to be influencers. There's no reason to start like, number one, like consumerism that early on. Like there's no reason for that. Number one, these kids don't even have their own money to be spending. So what the fuck are they influencing? Number two, what's crazy is these kids are making this money. They're not even 18 years old yet. So where the fuck does the money go? Their parents.
So yeah, the documentary goes into the life of Piper Raquel.
Yeah.
And talks about how she started this platform of kidfluencers with like kids that were 8 to 9 years old around her age, and I think at the oldest like maybe like 10 to 11 years old, some even including her family, like her cousins. And to one of your points you were making, it turns out that the platform was being completely conjured, puppeteered, and maneuvered by her mom, Piper Raquel's mom.
Well, it was a production to her mom. None of that shit was real.
A production to her mom, and so...
Which I don't even think that that's a huge part of the problem. Like, the shit that her mom was making them do on camera, yes, huge issue. The fact that it was staged, do I think that's a huge issue? No. Maybe that's because I come from the world of script writing and production and things being like, I guess, like intentionally curated. So I don't think that that's a problem. Like even some of the podcasts and stuff, we have a whole pre-production meeting before we go into sitting down and talking on the podcast. That's why with this podcast, it's a little bit easier to keep people's attention. Everybody that listens tells me that they make it through every single episode.
I mean, podcasts are podcasts inherently. I mean, people...
There's nothing wrong with going into creating content with a plan. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that, in my personal opinion.
I mean, I think if you get too, like, free ball, loosey-goose on most things in life, content's just one facet of things that you shouldn't get too lackadaisy with.
But the biggest problem not even the biggest problem, but a huge problem in this documentary or this docuseries is that Piper's mom, Tiffany, was literally stealing her fucking money, and this girl was making like $500,000 a month at her peak.
Yeah, it goes even beyond just like taking her money. Like she did allow Piper and the friends to finally get money after, mind you, moms.
I don't think Piper was ever getting her own money.
She was getting portions to the point where Piper's page alone, just her page alone, was making $500,000 a month.
Yeah.
The mom wasn't freezing it. Like, it wasn't a conservatorship. They didn't make notion to the conservatorship. Like, whatever Piper wants, she got it. And they even, remember they brought up Megan. So there was this other person online who had an admiration for Piper that was, I guess, this suspicious man that Piper's mom, Tiffany, and everybody would call Megan. And Megan was some man who would just, like, at the drop of any notion, anything Piper wanted, an iPad, a hoverboard,
Gucci bag,
yeah, Louis Vuitton, Megan got.
Yeah, he would just mail it to her.
For her.
Yeah.
A child.
Yeah.
And, like, her friends, it's like her friends were there watching this happen. They were kids. They saw it happen, observing every notion of it. And it's just a shame to see the documentary shedding light on this mom Tiffany's, like, manipulation towards the whole process. Whether it was taking more of it, because actually the documentary made note that the kids kept the money. Tiffany and Hunter, her boyfriend, who was the videographer and editor and everything. Those two
were getting a percentage.
They were getting a percentage. So they weren't taking everything, which totally understand if you're taking a certain percentage. You're the mom. If you're mom and the manager and you're working for, like, an agency to a degree and you're not, totally fucking manipulating your daughter and her friends, I would understand.
Yeah, but Piper was literally paying the mortgage.
So that's actually another portion of the documentary. I'm glad you brought that up. That's another portion of the documentary.
Like, you're saying, like, oh, Piper got whatever she wanted. Yeah, but she was also in charge of, like, paying for all these fucking adult bills that were not hers. I'm not knocking
her for that. I just was trying to make note of, like, how I'm not knocking her for the money she was making. I was definitely gonna say, like,
no, what I'm saying
the point
is
was that Tiffany didn't hold her assets or freeze her assets.
No,
she just took her portion.
But she was still in control. Tiffany was in control for sure. There's no reason that Piper would literally take her own paycheck and be like, I'm going to pay my mom's entire fucking mortgage for this house that she decided to.
Before we dive deeper into that, because it's so sad that it totally derailed into Piper having to pay her mom's mortgage and the mortgage to keep afloat all these kids, all these content creators, because actually in the documentary at one point Piper and her mom, once they started amassing this, like, insane amount of wealth through YouTube, they bought a giant mansion in Hollywood, LA, somewhere in LA, I don't know, and they bought this giant mansion where they were all living in. All these kids, all these moms. What? Like, are you kidding me?
It was basically like a content house.
I'm like, I'm not mad. Like, I'm mad I didn't think of it for myself.
Right,
but like, I'm also not trying to make light of, like, I'm not trying to make a joke about that. Like, honestly, like, from a financial standpoint, I would really enjoy that. I totally would.
Yeah, same.
I really, really would. But then, like, I don't know. How do you feel? I mean, you seeing some of the, like, under curtain issues or notions that come from, like, that realm, not so much always the content creation, but you kind of gotten to see it on both ends. You have friends that are content creators, and not that I believe any of your friends are like that, but, like, would you believe that, like, it's an insane amount for these kids to be making if it wasn't, like, the parents involved? What do you feel
beyond the money? Okay, not even money, like, included in any of the things that I'm about to say. I'm not even going to, like, include that because, yes, I was an influencer for, like, a while. Had a big account, like, had a bunch of people following me. There's a lot of things that I see, like, as a problem with this, and this is a big part of the reason why I wanted to start this podcast, was because I have such a love-hate relationship with the internet, right? Like, and I talk to you about this all the time. I'm like, I fucking hate the internet, but then I also love the internet, and I can't get the fuck off of it. Like, I really don't know where I stand, and that's part of the reason that I made this podcast to be what it is. The thing that I really am bothered by is I know what the stats look like, I know what the insights look like, and I know all of my analytics and stuff like that. And me even thinking back to my previous, like, influencing account, 92% men above 35 years old following me on my platform. Yes, it was mostly, like, automotive based, and, like, I was working on my car and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, like, typically when you think of like typical car guy, garage guy, you know, whatever, there's always like a Playboy fucking poster in your brain of like a girl with a car, right? And like a fucking calendar. So of course, like you're gonna think like, okay, yeah, no shit, of course your audience was like 92% men, you know, that were older. But even on my current account, it's still like at minimum, like I think like it might be like a 50-56 or maybe a 50-50 split or like a 60-40 split. And it's still mostly men. And the problem that I'm having is like later in the docu-series, you find out that Tiffany's like a fucking creep and like not treating these children well and like literally taking advantage of them and harassing them and stuff like that. And I would say, honestly, sexually assaulting them. I mean, I'm not the children, so I can't say that specifically. But from the kind of information that they were giving us in the docuseries, I was led to believe that she was sexually assaulting them.
So that's a big one.
But what I was getting at is even with, and we'll cover that in a second, but like even with the audience that these children probably have, and I would not even want to look at their insights. That's the thing that scares me the most is I'm like, you see how you're letting your daughter, not like letting your daughter dress on the internet, not trying to be like that, but like protect her.
Yeah.
Protect her. Are you fucking crazy? Even me, myself on the internet, I don't think that I personally do a lot of like showing skin on the internet. I'm very covered up. I wear baggy clothes. That's my personality. That's how I personally am and how I'm most comfortable. But also, I'm careful when I'm on the internet. I posted a picture this morning showing everybody that got my hair done. I had no socks on. What did I do? Zoom into the picture because I don't need people getting feet picked for free. As a child, you're not thinking about that kind of shit. Like even like the child gymnasts and stuff on the internet.
Thinking about that either.
No, they're not thinking about that, and I get nervous about that.
I mean, that's even like that one Olympic coach that came out that got exposed, that Simone Biles team was a part of. You know, that was probably so impossible for them to feel like that they had any kind of power to come out and speak against someone like that.
And I don't know,
especially being young girls.
Yeah, I don't know if I just didn't have that same like confidence as a child that like maybe Gen Z has now, and maybe they have it because not Gen Z. What even are they? These children, like, what even are they? What's the next? Are they still Gen Z?
I think they're Gen Z, or maybe they're Gen Alpha or something like that.
Yeah.
Now we're about to get into Gen Beta.
Ugh. Soon. Even as a child, there's no way that I had the same level of confidence that they had, and maybe they have this level of confidence because they're on the internet, unlike us, so they grow up a lot faster. They have access to a lot more like adult-like stuff than we did, and I'm not just talking about like creepy adult-like stuff. I'm talking about even younger girls learning how to do their makeup because of the internet and learning how to dress themselves because of the internet. They have different access than we did. But even when I was young and I was a gymnast for 13 years, I was doing competitive gymnastics, and I wasn't even comfortable like in my leotard knowing that there were like men in the gymnasium that I was in and like that kind of thing. Like I was so uncomfortable. I would take my sweatpants off at the last minute. And like to me, I'm just like, if these kids don't have that same awareness, you have to fucking protect them at all times. And that's my problem with Tiffany, is she was doing the complete fucking opposite.
Yeah.
Because she knows what works. She knows what gets views.
The documentary pointed that out very well before we get into that conversation, because that is a very important part of the documentary, actually. And they very much so harp on that. How does the money that the kids were making make you feel, say, if the parents were taken out of it?
Like if that, okay, listen, if these kids had a Coogan account like they should, just like the SAG-AFTRA kids get a Coogan account.
Applied to the influencers, which they talked about.
Correct, which now there's laws in place for it. But there were not laws, or was it policies that are in place for it now? For the kid influencers.
There could be policies, but not on social media, but only in certain states. Certain states. Maybe like 1 or 2 states.
Correct,
really.
Right. So if they do that, fucking by all means, one of those states. By all means, go ahead, do what you're doing. Also, you can't have these kids not in school because they're making YouTube videos. Get the fuck out of here.
But hearing about that, all y'all truancy motherfuckers, put your kids in fucking school. Let them get a fucking education, dude. I don't care. Like,
unless if you're
that was crazy. That was crazy to hear about. 9 years old. I could never. Hearing the one kid talk about he said this with such like conviction, and like he was so sad. He was like, I don't think Piper has ever really had any genuine friends.
Yeah.
Like genuine friendships.
And listen, that's another thing that broke my heart. And I think that that's because, like, for me growing up, I didn't feel like I was having genuine friends and making genuine friendships
Or
because
and things like that. Because of things like that.
Yeah. And you know that because you and I dated way back when I was in high school. And like, I was always like afraid of even bringing people over to my house because my dad was making good money and I lived in a nice house, that I was like, these people are fucking using me, you know? And it was very apparent too. People wanted to come over and use all my shit and stay at my house. Yeah, it was obvious. And like, to me, like, even the fact that you're going to have that happen to you as a child is traumatizing. You know how hard it is for me to even trust people as adults?
And it's like not
it's
even
so
like have
hard.
that happen to you as well. Yeah, have that happen as in a sense of like the circumstance of it happening is so heartbreaking, but like it's just a shame that like these kids really felt so helpless because one of the psychologists, I think, in the show or in the docuseries, they made aware was that like when these kids are being taught, when they are looking up to the adults, when they are looking up to adults, they are looking at the adult as these faultless authority figures. And so when they look at these adults as like these faultless authority figures who are doing nothing but protecting and nurturing them, how can they almost feel like they would do anything to manipulate them? Not even that, but like even some of the most manipulative people, they were like, oh yeah, they were like a sweetheart or like a gentleman and a scholar kind of person, you know, like that. It's just so polarizing to see like that happen with your mom. Like,
not my mom, but Tiffany.
Not Bri's mom, but like to see that happen with your mom when you're trying to do something that's amassing you so much wealth.
Yeah,
is just amazing.
But she's probably unaware.
And she is unaware. And now, to your point of the unawareness, now the documentary really tried its hardest to harp on the fact that not only were these kids getting emotionally abused and physically drained from having to work like anywhere between 12 to like almost damn near 24 hours, because let's make that aware, these kids had to do 24-hour challenges for videos sometimes. And they did multiple 24-hour challenges. So these poor children are up overnight. They're fucking starved. They're literally utilizing all of their talent, being exploited to the maximum degree. And nobody saw anything wrong with this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying nobody, because there was obvious like radars out there. There was people making note of this and like chalking this up. And some of the people that were doing this were in the documentary talking about it. But like what's even crazy and more sinister about the entire documentary was that it got to a point where they made wave and notion of these kids being sexually assaulted.
Right. See, this is exactly why Tiffany. I have you here, because you remember all that about the court case and the testimonies and
every lucrative detail.
Not me.
Yeah,
not me.
Because I was just so captivated by this docuseries. But I mean, when it's something that like I'm passionate about, where it's like harm to people, harm to children, I need to know what the fuck happened. Like I need to know what even caused these things to even arise and happen.
You did actually get to watch it a second time, because I fell asleep halfway through episode 2.
And honestly, watching it I remember I watched it the first time and I recited everything to you verbatim.
And you were like, you have to finish it.
And then we watched it the second time, trying to get you to get on top of watching it. But so they brought up the sexual assault portions, and that was just horrifying, because it wasn't just with Piper. Actually, the docuseries made Tiffany's sexual assault accusations and then everything coming to fruition when the kids were testifying on it and talking about it, giving their true testament. So the documentary like started out talking about Tiffany's sexual assault like extravaganza by making note of like her sexually assaulting the kids, the other kids that were not her daughter. And then it was kind of like a domino effect and a puzzle piece where like only a select few of kids were getting sexually assaulted within the group. One of those kids, not just Piper's cousin.
So her own niece,
Tiffany's niece. And so that's where the documentary really took like a more dark and sinister turn that was like an even more deranged side of kidfluencing that I would have even thought it was going to be. And I felt like it was very paramount that you wanted to talk about it because of this month being Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Yes, it is. And we've got a second episode about this about that subject coming out next week.
You should be having a second episode about this this month on the platform.
Yeah.
And hand in hand, adjacently, it was just above all else making it aware to the public, the general public, that like it's so important to pay attention to these platforms and realize that like if something looks off, like kind of like the see something, say something notion.
Yes.
Like you should really kind of do that. Watching this documentary.
But also like just one more thing before you move on.
Go ahead. You
gotta look out for your people. Like you gotta protect people. And if you even know somebody in a similar like situation, again, see something, say something, because they might not even realize that they're in that situation, but maybe an outsider would recognize that.
So a lot
and
of
you
times,
have to keep a close eye on that kind of shit.
Yeah, to your point. So in the documentary, they were like trying to really fault the parents of the other kids. Like, well, don't act like you weren't enjoying that bag too. Don't act like you weren't enjoying that like exploitation money too.
Yeah.
And totally understand the reservation behind it.
Is it really exploitation though? Because some of those kids were like, no, I really love doing this and this is what I want to do. And some of them were like literally crying when they were being dragged away from it.
It depends legally. I won't get into it legally on your elaboration on whether kids are allowed to consensualize. Because kids, you can't be like a child and on a contract have a signature just for yourself. Like your parent has to be there and sign after you. Like when you went and did your first SAG stuff when you were a kid, you had no power or say whatsoever. Correct. It was all your dad. You're lucky your dad's smart. Yeah. And you're lucky your dad did not allow for exploitation because you had no say whatsoever. Right. Like literally barely until you were 18.
But that's what's so crazy about like influencing is like
because there's no laws to back it up.
There's no laws to back it up. And then in addition to that, like even when it comes to like the internet, all you have to do is click a box and say that you're 18. Like you could lie about the fucking year that you were born. It's not hard. It's not like they ask you for your ID when you sign up for an account.
Exactly. And so I would say on the parents' end, I wouldn't say it was intentional exploitation. It's just exploitation nonetheless. And the parents were understanding of that because when they brought in the lawyers, all the litigation like specialists of all sorts, and had them all meeting for the first time and sitting them down, they were kind of like, yeah, you guys did participate in exploitation of your children. It's not going to legally fall on them because they didn't know what was going on. Right. But then they also talked about why would you stay with Tiffany hearing even any kind of allegations from any of the other kids. But it's like your kids are crying. Your kids are saying this is what they want to do with their lives. Correct. And also you're being metaphysically manipulated by this person who controls all of their platforms, their wealth, their this. And it was
Speaking of manipulation of platforms.
Yeah.
Literally, what was the craziest part about this whole docu-series was then when you watch, like, as the kids were dropping off from the squad or whatever, and, like, all of their accounts, instead of peaking in their growth...
plateauing.
They were dropping off the face of the fucking planet and then... steady. Like the bar, like basically like the chart was instead of like this, like going up, it was like
and it just like literally rock bottom and then plummeted and flatlined. It came out in the documentary that Tiffany had hired a team of like hate campaign people to like spread hate on the other kids' platforms.
Insane.
But also
she's sick.
Paid to get followers removed and ripped and all of their information
I don't even know if she was
from the internet as much as possible.
Listen, as somebody that was in the influencing world, I don't even think like and they talk about this in the documentary, there are ways for you to purchase followers, purchase your audience so that you look like you have this massive fucking audience. And you see it all the time. Like this was like a big thing in like I think 2020 something, right? 2021 maybe. Right. Where like, you know, somebody goes from having like no followers at all to now suddenly overnight they're 10,000 followers in an account, or like you can sell accounts with like 10,000 plus followers.
And a lot of this, mind you, where their content had the most expansion and explosion was during COVID.
But what I was going to say
was in the house.
What I was going to say is I think that Tiffany was paying for these other kids' followers.
Oh yeah, probably.
I think that she was paying for the
And
followers.
then stopped paying for them.
Correct. And then stopped paying for them as soon as the kids went away. Because she made herself seem more valuable because those kids were a part of her content house and a part of her whole plan.
Yeah.
And I had... Ooh, should I spill the tea right now or no?
Well, before you do that, yeah, like these kids, like, do I believe that also in their own ways probably had a genuine following? Yeah, because personally... majority of those kids had way more personality than Piper herself, but somehow Piper was the one.
That's because she was having the fucking life sucked out of her by her mother.
She was having the life siphoned out of her, and she still is to this day.
Yeah, yeah.
But what were you gonna say? Spill the tea.
Oh God, I found out at one point that this person that was working with me and my YouTube channel. I'm not gonna say what they were doing for my YouTube channel, but at one point they were purchasing views on the videos that they were a part of the production for, because they wanted me to see their value. So they thought that if they were purchasing more views for the videos that they were involved in, that it would show me their value. They were basically trying to trick me on my own fucking channel. And they would like buy these views and this engagement on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram. Like anything that they were involved in with me, it was slimy. It was slimy as fuck. And they basically, it's because they wanted to continue working with me.
Which I don't.
So they were basically manipulating me into thinking that they were more valuable because look at your numbers when I'm around versus when I'm not. And it was fucking crazy.
I feel like it would have been different.
They came clean about that shit.
Well, I feel like it would have been different had they had been hired on to be like something like I've had friends that like they work in job spaces where they have to do a lot of work, but then also like a good portion of their job for a business to like expand upon the business or get more viewership or get more likes and clicks, and this is to use things like Google AdSense and pay for the platform, like pay for the subscribers or the viewers. Like they still pay money into it. Would I deem their position less valuable? No, but
that's more listen, that is a little bit more ethical than Famoid.
Yeah, okay,
you know,
okay,
it's a little more ethical than Famoid, and then like you know,
but you would know that better than I would.
Yeah,
you know, but yeah, that's sick. But yeah, this influencing stuff, man, is really dark. I mean, I was happy that you even asked me, because at first when you asked me to watch it, when you said, "Oh, this looks neat," it looks. I was like,
"This is URL versus IRL."
I really wasn't interested, because I don't necessarily look on the side of influencers. Like I know influencers. I grew up with the internet, and like my early styles of like content creators and influencers look different than like the modern take of like content creators and influencers. But I'm learning. I'm not ignorant to it. I'm always trying to adapt and learn to like all of the modern trends and like the new things coming out and everything like that. Like I'm learning all the new Gen Z, Gen A lingo and everything. So like it makes sense to like stay ahead or on top of the curve as much as possible. But it's almost jarring to even think, like, I can't even believe myself alone would have never known that this platform, like, I didn't even know these kids existed.
Me either.
Piper Raquel's,
that's why I think her shit was fake.
I wanted to believe the whole documentary was a fucking satire. Like, I literally I thought we were being punked, literally, until I actually, like, when we first watched it together, you fell asleep. Yeah. And so like while you were asleep, I was still watching it, listening, and they were just making like they were just throwing all these like facts out, like all this information. And they were like showing numbers, like just the numbers were just really blowing my fucking mind. Cause I was, like,
the numbers are
watching
crazy.
some of the videos they were putting out there. I was like, these are the most boring, ripped off. Like Tiffany literally was building her platform off ripping off of other people's content.
She would just find the shit that was trending.
Just find things that are trending. Jake Paul, this, that, third. And I keep bringing up Jake Paul because he was probably one of the hottest people on YouTube at one point. Yeah. But he was one of those examples of these kids, like Tiffany just ripping off their content and then making these kids this money. And then I had gone on YouTube that night when we were watching it and saw that Piper had like 12 million followers, like 12.3 million followers. Just on YouTube. Yep. It's hard as fuck to get followers on YouTube. So
YouTube is the hardest platform.
That is insane to even see that. I mean, that's almost as jarring as any of the other YouTubers having platforms. But like, just seeing Piper have that and just knowing that Tiffany had her role in it and knowing that like we could have seen the writing on the walls. Because during the documentary too, they put a lot of video evidence and photo evidence of just the kids' moods just de-escalating, and like it got to a point where like Piper just, you could see the life sucked out of her. The fun was sucked out of her. She took no more joy in anything she was doing. And even so, when everyone pretty much like left the platform, all the kids that were just like their moms were done. They were like, Tiffany is using and abusing you kids, but also like trying to separate you from us. And that's not good. Piper and Hunter and her mom, I guess her mom must have made her put out this video where she had to address all the allegations of all the team members leaving. And she curated all these fake agendas on why these kids left. And then on top of that, she made Piper unfollow these kids
on camera
and put the video out. I guarantee you the video's still on YouTube to this day.
And what's crazy is, like, the internet is forever.
It's crazy.
And I think that, like, even if all of those videos were deleted, what's scary to me is, like, for those kids, as far as, like, getting jobs when they get older comes around. Like, that could even affect them because somebody could have been watching your videos. But, like, you were a child.
I wonder how... So that's the laws that need to be enacted, too, that also need to be kind of retroactively in place, I feel. Like, and what I mean by that is
But apparently the internet's not forever because Tiffany did get that one video deleted of her kissing that one kid during the live stream.
No, she didn't, because...
Well, they had
it. At the time, but they had it.
It was gone. They did have it.
They had it on the documentary.
It's
so,
true.
Like, I mean, even something I've learned in, like, data, like networking and anything that has to deal with like networking forensics or like information data at all, is that even when a disk drive is completely wiped, any of the metadata that could have existed in it previously, you can still pull and find information that could have been deleted. Unless crazy. It had been completely...
Remember that one time my camera deleted an entire podcast and then I was able to
and you were able to find it in the metadata. Yeah,
it's true. Actually,
it's just like... I'm not even harping on that.
Yeah.
What I am harping on is like the actual lives of children and putting on this puppet show, making them put on this puppet show and giving them this false illusion, right?
But how much different is it than child acting?
It's not.
Correct.
I mean, it's giving them this false illusion that they can go and act and be on this commercial, go do this influencing gig, go hang out with all, like even some of the kids that got to work with Piper. Her cousin, for example, was like, oh my God, I didn't know Piper was my cousin. Like, I was watching her videos and like now I'm like gonna be on her platform. Holy shit. And then they got on her platform and now they never want to do anything like that ever again.
Yep.
I think the reason we wanted to talk about this today is to just weigh in our opinions. And personally, after watching that, here's what I've concluded myself down to. After watching that, I think... would I ever stop my kid from trying to do anything on the internet that I maybe didn't even have supervision over, like maybe a watchful eye or parental control? I don't think I would say I would stop or eliminate my child from doing anything that was safeguarded or safely monitored to a degree that didn't have nudity or them doing anything that was shameful to their body or maybe misconfiguring to themselves that made them feel uncomfortable. I want to listen to them more than I'm listening to myself, because even though I am the parenting supervisor, I also have to have that ultimate say on, is this going to endanger them or is this going to... I'm an adult. I need to know that the internet's forever. I cannot live in ignorance.
Correct.
So I need to know that. But also, like, you know, when I was a kid, when I was in 7th grade, me and my friends used to put out YouTube videos when YouTube was like only about 3-4 years old. Did we think about the ramifications we were going to face back then? I did not think about that. And honestly,
you know what's funny?
I think those videos are probably buried. I mean, you'll probably find them, but were any of those videos incriminating and could they stop me from getting a job? No, because I didn't say anything derogative and I was behind the camera.
I wonder if... I don't know if it was just like my parents or what, but like I also started making videos at a super young age. I think you can find videos of me like on the internet from when I was like 7th grade, maybe 6th grade even. And I remember my dad back then had this awareness that he was like, I do not want you filming in your bedroom because there are creepy ass men on the internet and I don't want them knowing what the inside of your bedroom looked like. Was it better for me to film in my yard and show the front of my house? Fuck no. But the fact that there was that awareness back then, and I don't know if it's because I'm a girl and my parents are just so afraid of like predator. What's the word that I'm looking for? Perverts. That my parents were
Perverts,
so
stalkers,
afraid of.
predators, yeah.
Well, I don't know if my parents were so afraid of like perverts and stalkers and predators that they were like, we have to protect this young little girl and this child. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's what it was, and maybe that's why I was so aware of it right off the bat. But like Tiffany is literally using it to her fucking advantage.
Yeah,
to her fucking advantage. But also she's sick. So like maybe that's part of the reason
she's
why.
Sick in the head. She's manipulating Piper too.
Well, what I was gonna say is that if she is like literally sexually assaulting this children, she knows exactly the kind of content that she would want to see, and that's why it's fucking working.
Yeah, I wouldn't harp on as much on the kind of content she would want to see. I mean, true, because she's sexually assaulting them.
But she was also making Piper wear these skimpy ass little clothes.
Because one thing she kept saying in the documentary is sex sells.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Exactly,
she is sick and she was sexually harassing children. No, she's sexually harassing and assaulting children. Yeah. She's sick, okay? And in addition to that, she is controlling content that children are making. Yeah. So she knows how to even cater to the audience of people that she would fit into. And that's why I'm saying it was working. Well, she wants to see little kids kissing. I mean, she was making
$500,000 a year. And actually what you're saying is so valid, because her friend, that was Sophie's mom. Sophie is like the best friend to Piper in the docuseries and in real life at that time. The mom of Sophie was literally like, this guy Megan that is giving her gifts, like only asked for like these bikini photos of Piper and this, that, and third while she was underdeveloped. Tiffany knew Megan was a pervert and was vocalizing to the mom that Megan was a pervert, but was like, oh, but he's a pervert. So like, as long as he just pays the bills, essentially, as long as he's given she's blinded by cash, blinded by the currency. But she didn't care about the manipulative inflictions that it was doing to Piper, because Piper's going along thinking this is normal.
No,
Piper
but also
knows
Tiffany clearly doesn't think that there's anything wrong with it, because that's kind of the kind of shit that she likes.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Vicious fucking cycle. Obviously, you guys, this is a very like specific scenario. I'm not saying that every single child on the internet, their parent is doing this kind of shit to them, and like every single kidfluencer, like this is what's happening to them. This specific documentary, yes, raised a lot of like, or docuseries, I guess the specific docuseries raises a lot of awareness as to what could be going on, and that there can be a dark side to all of this.
And what's probably going on.
But also, like, it's a very extreme case, and hopefully it's one of the most extreme cases.
It's an extreme case, but I hope there's so many...
But there's so many other little tiny things wrong that we're not like thinking about and recognizing on a regular basis. Like, where are these children's money going? Who has a handle of their money? Who's watching their content?
Where are they filming? What kind of harm's way are they getting put into? What are their hours of work looking like?
And what is this going to do to them in the future?
Because, that's great if you're making $500,000 a month. Are you still working like 24 hours a day around the clock? And these kids talked about how from, again, this content creation, let's talk about how we don't know how long it's taking for all of these events to unfold. These kids started making content in like 2017, 2018, working every day, no days off apparently, not going to school, sometimes working 12 to like 18 hours, and then the 24-hour challenges. Is the money even really worth it? And let's like not even talk about the money even really worth it. Their sanities. They need to develop. They need to like have fun, have friends, go to school, talk, not have their brains wired in content creation.
I don't think that you should be allowed to make money on the internet until you're at least 18.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I don't think you should be allowed to monetize until you're at least 18 years old. That's my personal, not even like 18. Like, I honestly even think like 21.
Well, if it's like a Coogan account, like you were talking about, like, I feel like if my child wanted to have the platform, again, under heavy surveillance in the sense of like, you can't, no nudity, no this, no that.
But your money should be frozen until you're 18. But your money should be
frozen, because I don't want you promoting... Hi, what's going on on the internet? We're gonna open the Gucci bag. Like, what do you no. No. Like, you're 10 years old, you don't need a Gucci bag.
That's what I'm saying. And like, you should just be having fun on the internet and figuring out what you like and what you don't like at that point. And like, It's even the same as like, have you seen all like the bop content going around?
Bot content.
Bop, B-O-P.
B-O-P?
Yeah.
What's that?
That's like the new way that
Maybe I haven't.
sex workers on like internet
Jesus
sex
Christ.
workers are referring to themselves.
They're
it's not
referring
like
to them as bops?
Yes, I think it originally was supposed to be like a derogative term, but it's kind of something that they've just like reclaimed.
Oh,
and they're
self-empowered.
Yeah, like they're calling themselves bops now.
Shout out to my bops.
Yeah, exactly. So they're calling themselves bops now, and it's basically like these girls that are essentially making porn like on the internet. They're doing that, and there's this one girl, I can't remember what her name is. It's Ari something. I follow her on Instagram. She's a gorgeous girl, and she basically is just like explaining to people like. And she doesn't post that kind of content on Instagram. She's got that on her other platforms and shit.
She's defending it?
No, she basically is like, so many young girls are asking her like how they can get into that because they see how much money she's making and how much money she has and blah, 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 blah. And she's basically like, I don't think you should be doing this as like your first job. You should not be jumping into this right after high school, right after whatever. Like, try other shit out first, because when you do this, this is gonna follow you for the rest of your life, just like influencing does. And I admire her for telling that to people and speaking that truth to people, because she's like, just because I do it does not mean that it's something that you should do, and it's not because I'm trying to take your bag from you. I'm just telling you that like, once you do this shit is here forever. You guys are not understanding that the internet is here forever.
That goes back to even when I was young and I wanted to get tattoos and everything. They said, know what career path you want, know what you want to do, because like, dude, there are places that will look at you and be like, I will not hire you because of that. Back in the day, there were places that would not hire you because of the color of your skin, this, that, and the third. Like, it's the same thing for that. Like, know the implications of what you're doing, because it could be on the internet forever or this, that, and the third, but
you might not be able to get rid of it.
And it's really not that. Yeah, that kind of work is that. Like, if you're going to make content like that.
And I know it's an extreme comparison, but I think it's just the fact that this girl, I watch her do her makeup like all the time, and she just like tells us stories and shit, which is why I follow her. But to me, the fact that you're like willing to even like tell people that and not just be like, oh yeah, it's so much money, like all these men like pay for my blah 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 and like whatever, and like I've got this multi-million-dollar house and stuff, like at least she's actually telling people the dark sides of things. Yeah, exactly.
There's good and bad sides to every field.
There is.
Everything.
There is.
Everything. No one's perfect job is the perfect job.
There's a balance to literally all of this shit. And the reason that I wanted to bring this docu-series up in the podcast is, number one, because it's very URL versus IRL, in my personal opinion. It was literally showing the behind the scenes of the shit that we're seeing on the internet, which is the whole reason that I was like inspired to make this podcast. Obviously their movie came out like a whole like year later than me, but to me it was important, and I was like, this is literally like the epitome of this entire brand thing that I'm creating right now, and it just.
And it's so important, especially in months like today. And I know you'll probably, months like today, months like now. And I know you're going to probably talk about this in your next episode that you do, when you do talk about situations like this and issues like this. It's important to note like why we wanted to talk about an episode like this, like because this episode was so surrounded, or this documentary and docuseries was so surrounded by waves of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and abuse, and emotional and physical abuse.
Do you think they intentionally released it this month?
I wonder if they did, and you know what?
Because they didn't mention it.
I just hope people really pay attention to the signs, the writing on the walls.
Yeah.
Because when you watch this docuseries, there were so many writings on the walls. Just, I hope people are a little more vigilant and pay a little more attention. And look out for people of color too. People of color are especially black women. The sexual assault rates on black women are absolutely off the charts.
I've got stats that you guys are going to hear in the next episode.
But women of color and just like children now, like, I mean, I don't want to say children now because that's been a lifelong thing, but like, we need to pay attention more. We need to do better.
You have to read between the lines.
We need to do better in life as humans, outside of this episode, outside of what we're talking about, but like, we need to do better. And I think that was a good documentary to watch, to shed a little more light on situations like this for this month.
It was great. I really suggest the docuseries if you guys didn't get a chance to watch it. It's like 3 episodes, right? They're 40 minutes long. 3 episodes,
about 40 some odd minutes long. It's literally the equivalent of watching like a documentary that's like 3 hours long, except you can like take a little break every now and then to digest the information episode by episode.
Yeah, it was really entertaining, and I don't know. I was really moved by it and really, like, I think enamored by the entire thing, especially like a person that's so fascinated with the internet and like what's happening online and that kind of thing.
Like I said, you brought it to my interest. Like, you were the one who wanted to watch it. I didn't really have an interest in it, and then we watched it. I didn't think, all I saw was dark side of kidfluencing. I didn't think it was going to be that dark.
I didn't think so either.
I did not. I thought it was just going to be kids overworked.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, was I wrong.
Yeah.
So go watch it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, talk to you soon on the next URL versus Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know it was a little like off the beaten path for URL versus IRL, but honestly, this is something that I've kind of been considering recently, is just like starting to cover things that are just happening on the internet. Starting to cover things that are just happening on the internet and online and in the media, and comparing it to like real life and what the real life experience of that specific thing is like, because this is literally an internet versus reality podcast. So let me know if you guys are interested in that kind of thing, or if you liked this episode. I honestly just thought the documentary was really, really good, and I hope that you guys actually do watch it. If you do, hit me up on Instagram. I would love to have a conversation with you about it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode so much. Like I said, the next episode is going to be a little different. It's going to be a Girls vs. World episode. It's a little heavy because it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, the month of April, and there are a lot of things that I do think need to have light brought to them. So I hope you guys come back next Tuesday and tune into that. Our guest that's coming on our podcast is super duper duper brave, and I think could really be somebody's hero. So I hope to see you guys next week, and that's all.